People ask me all the time, why go with a broker as opposed to a mortgage professional just sitting at a cubicle at a bank? And I think we should be clear that a mortgage broker does deal with the major banks. Like a lot of my lending products right now are with Scotiabank and BMO, right? But they're all brokered by you. I'm not going to say anything. Neal, you can maybe say something if you want, but like why would you say go with a broker rather than a bank?
Yeah, I'll let you take that.
There's two. Like I get asked that all the time, just by new clients reaching out, and it's a genuine question. Like I don't think people are asking it in like a combative way. Like why should I deal with you? I think people genuinely don't know, and they're like, why? Like what do you guys do? Because people don't know. So I think there's two answers, and this is how I answer to clients. There's a generic answer, which is true yet generic, which is that brokers have access to lots of different lenders instead of dealing with just one bank. So, banks differ in programs, and with rental properties, that's actually really crucial. But
huge.
But even just for the average first-time single-family home buyer, choice is important. Representation. So a broker represents the client, advocates for the client, and presents your file in the best light to the lender, as opposed to you being thrown to the wolves just dealing with the bank, and you don't know how to interact with them or how to present yourself. So representation in that sense. Also, the person at the bank works for the bank. Their job's to make their employer money, right? Their interests are not your interests. Sorry.
I always remind everyone this. I'm like, the bank, everyone has this weird thing of like this comfort level with the banks on my side. And I'm like, the bank's another store and they're selling you a product. They're the Walmart of money.
That's right.
Like, they're there to make money. But
that's
not
good.
to cut you off,
I'm going to steal that. I like that. So that's the generic answer. And that's also where you get into, people say, oh, you get the best rates. Well, yeah, when you actually buy a house, there's lots of these different lenders available. They're all offering competing rates. We'll find you a great rate. Like that's a given. It's just a starting point. So any broker should be able to articulate that, because that's just how the system works. That's not any one broker's value proposition. That's just how the whole thing functions. Right? And all these banks are competing through us for our clients' business. All the banks know that, so it forces them to be like as forthcoming with their best offers as possible, instead of playing that game, where they see like, are you happy with this rate? Okay, we could have gone lower, but you seem satisfied. So
on that note, I'm going to ask you, I was told by another broker recently, like sometimes they can even beat the rates that the guys at the branch can offer. Like I know one said based on their production as a group, let's say it's with whatever CBC, if you do 100 million in lending products, they offer you exclusive rates that you can offer that you can actually beat up against the regular, let's say, cubicle
from the same bank.
Financial. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So he said, because his client was like, I'm getting quoted 2.1 from the bank. And he's like, I can give you 1.89.
Probably from the same bank.
From the same bank, but it's because of the volume.
We had a transaction early on where someone got denied by a bank, and then you got the mortgage done with the exact same bank.
Yeah, and that's presentation, right?
Presentation, that to me is a huge thing. And a lot of listeners will have out there, if you've got side hustles, know yourself. If you are not a Class A borrower in the banker's eyes, you need a broker. Right? If you've got this money come from here, this is an independent contractor, this is like temp work. Like
even more simple things that you don't think about, like say nursing is a really good example, right? The nurses make good money, obviously health professionals, very in demand. A lot of them work what are called casual jobs.
Yeah.
That's how they're classified. So they work full-time, but they're not guaranteed full-time hours.
Crazy.
Teachers, teachers, great, government job, cool. A lot of them are on term positions until they get like way into that school board bureaucratic, ladder climbing. So my point is that even like, people with side hustles and contract work and all this stuff that's becoming more and more common, that's complicated. But even things that at face value may seem simple are not so cookie cutter, right? And so if you've got someone who puts your file away at 4:30 and they're off for the next 2 days and you are not on their mind. Like, I lose sleep over deals quite literally, right? Like I wake up being like, right, I got to fix that tomorrow,
Chandler.
Yeah, exactly. So
deposits too.
Yeah. But, someone, and that's the other thing too, like not to bring money into it, but like someone on a salary, and this is not a slight to them, but like they shouldn't be trying to work the extra mile for you because it doesn't do anything for them. And no, sorry, that's just how things work.
Yeah. I said to a lot of people, because a lot of people ask me like why the broker, and I'm like, right off the hop, they're not getting paid unless your deal closes, so they're all in to make sure that thing is going to close. And yeah, exactly. I always say the same thing. Unless you're like super simple, I've been making biweekly income for the last 10 years. It's set standard, and like I'm only interested in buying this one house, and it's well within my range.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, all right, probably just go to the bank. But otherwise, I'm like, if there's anything like you said, or even multiple people, or they're buying a secondary property or whatever it is, I'm always like, broker, you have to, because they need to look at your whole picture.
Totally. And the other thing too is the experience. So that person, you're right, they'll get approved by the bank. Like it would take a colossal mistake to mess that up, right?
Yeah.
But what was that experience like? You know, like were you hounding someone for 3 days just to get back to you? And sometimes that's the case. I mean, you guys send agreements to banks all the time. Do they even acknowledge receipt of the agreement?
Often not.
Right.
I always say, call them. And like, well, I can't really call them. So what do you mean you can't call them? It's like, well, the bank, like the phone.
You don't have a number line straight to them.
Like,
or like, oh, it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to beat up on them because there's a lot of awesome independent brokers within the banking system, but they are limited in their products they can offer.
It's not necessarily even their fault. It's just the way the system is designed for them. It's an order-taking system. You come in, you say, I want this, they fill in the forms, next client, right?
Yeah.
So for us, so again, everything I said earlier is generic but true. And then for our team specifically, what we really focus on is making it a very educational and transparent process, especially for first-time buyers. So they don't just get pre-approved, but they understand like how it happened and what happened along the way. And then also being actual advisors. So, there's a lot of structure, especially for people who want to grow with real estate. Mm-hmm. It's not about just getting this one deal.
Yeah.
It's about doing it in a way that positions you best for your next deal.
100%.
Exit strategy. I've pounded that drum a lot in this already. Exit strategy and having a broker who gets it and is doing the same thing personally and knows where you're trying to get to is hugely important.
Yeah. And then the other thing is we've done everything you can do with a property between Scott and I, between rentals, flipping, Airbnbs, building. Either he or I have done it. So again, when you're talking to someone who is reading like how to do the thing you were asking them to do out of a manual,
this is huge,
right? Mm-hmm. Versus
I'm obsessed with this.
Hey guys, we've done this. We're not an armchair quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, some people haven't had a chance to do it yet. And there was a point when I couldn't have said that, and that's okay. But just in general, if you're doing something again that someone's like, well, according to the policy that I've read, versus, hey, here's how you actually do it.
Neal, you're.
I'm chomping at the bit, and I'm probably like, this is like I'm gonna get some hate for this, but you can't learn to buy a Rolls Royce from someone who drives a Toyota Corolla.
I think this is the second time you said
said it on here.
I love that.
Yeah. I think that's the best, but I think it relates to what he's saying, right?
Totally.
And same with us. That's what we were saying earlier, and this is I think where it came up before is working with agents that don't necessarily haven't done the investment. How can they
advise you?
Exactly. How can they advise you on that? And it's the same for you. You can be a lot more advisable if you've done it and understand exactly what they're going through and what they're looking for and how they need to grow.
Yeah. Coming full circle, me and Igor love this same rapper named Rock Marciano. And I know you're thinking the same line as I've got Lamborghini dreams and Nissan nightmares.
Yeah.
That's this line he has, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were talking about Kanye last night. What do you think I rap for? To push a RAV4?
Yeah.
Which is a great line, but also as a RAV4 owner, it stings a little.
Yeah.
RAV4's a great, reliable automobile. Anyway.
Yeah, well, that's not what you rap for.
And that's
when I was broke, I had rich habits.